I want to talk to you if you're out there and you're homesick. There are ways of getting through it. We're going to look at them today. And one of them, it turns out, is doing something fun. So this episode will be fun. I'm already having it. Hi, you're with Scott. This is Mental Health Monday. It's midnight. It's always midnight. It's Monday. It's always Monday. It's 8 p.m. GMT. This is right here on your left ear. It's mono. Can use the old wiki. And it's quite good, this Wikipedia, this one, and it leads us to some interesting places. So what the chuff. If you want to see it, if you get cross, you let me know. Otherwise, you've got a nice picture and I'll do some reading about homesickness. I'm going to miss out some chuff, so I'm not going to read all the chuff, but diagnosis and epidemiology. Oh, there's loads of big words on Wikipedia, loads of big words. You'll love this. Whereas separation anxiety disorder is characterised by inappropriate and excessive fear or anxiety is characterised by inappropriate and excessive fear or anxiety concerning separation from those to whom the individual is attached. Symptoms of homesickness are most prominent after a separation and include both depression and anxiety, which is interesting, isn't it? Because we talk about both those things. And it's interesting that something as simple as being away from home, which most of us have experienced, can give us those feelings which are like, what I'm trying to say is it gives us a way that we can all relate to depression and we can all relate to anxiety and those sorts of things. Yeah. God, there's a lot of words. If I lose my place, I've got to find where it is on the old computer screen. That's a tough one for me now. It's all very bright, isn't it? The computer screen. And there's a lot of tough words here for me, but I'll just go with homesickness is the distress or impairment caused by an actual or anticipated separation from home. Its cognitive hallmark is preoccupying thoughts of home and attachment objects. Recent pathogenic models suggest the possibility homesickness reflects both insecure attachment and a variety of emotional and cognitive vulnerabilities, such as little previous experience away from home and negative attitudes about the novel environment. Citation needed. Pathogenic models. I wonder what a pathogenic model is. Pathogen, isn't that when you have something that makes you sick? Reasons for your sickness. Emotional vulnerability. So what they're saying is, if you don't have much experience being away from home, so if it's novel, if it's new to you, and if you're worried about it, you've got negative attitudes about the environment that you're going to. They've used the word novel, that's where I got that from. So if you think the place you're going to be going to is not as good as home and you prefer to be at home, then you're potentially more likely to get sick, or they're the things that are going to make you more homesick. The prevalence of homesickness varies greatly depending on the population studied and the way homesickness is measured. One way to conceptualize homesickness prevalence is as a function of severity. What they mean is why do they use these long words when they just could say what they mean? What they mean is that you can find out about how wide homesickness is across all people by measuring how much they feel it. So the absolute prevalence of homesickness is close to 100% in a mild form, they say. And this comes from studies, so they don't just say this. This is from a study by Thurber, Patterson, and Matt. This is a good thing about Wikipedia, isn't it? It can show you the studies. I thought we'd do the overview, and then maybe one day we'll look deeper into the studies. So I thought maybe that gives us more to look at, doesn't it? I'll keep picking bits out, chatting about them. I've got my cake down there if I get hungry as well. How am I going to edit this if I keep gibbling on? Look, chuffling on. What I was saying there, homesickness is close to 100%. It means that everyone feels homesickness in their study. Everyone. Mostly in a mild form, but everyone has said they find some form of homesickness. Roughly 20% of university students and children at summer camp rate themselves at or above the midpoint of homesickness severity. So they would say they're more than average homesick. At least 20% of uni students and children at summer camp. And this is where it's important, because most children go to summer camp, don't they? Most of us, when we're kids, through some sort of schooling or church or whatever it is, through some sort of project, have to go away, scouts maybe, have to go away from our home and spend some time in an environment that we perceive to be as lower grade than home. It's not. I remember thinking about scout camp. Well, I don't fancy sleeping in a tent at night in the woods in the cold, and I don't fancy using not a toilet in the woods, and I don't fancy using not a bathroom to clean my teeth. I don't fancy that. Sounds better at home, doesn't it, where I've got my Super Nintendo. So looking forward to these projects. That's part of the homesickness problem, wasn't it? It said earlier that if you're already feeling negative about the new environment and you don't have much experience being away from home, you might get more homesick. And so now we're saying that at least 100% of everyone felt some form of homesickness, and at least 20% of children have felt it in a strong or above average way. Only 5% of campers report intense homesickness in line with anxiety or depression. So only 5 to 7 people say it's that bad that it's depression. But in adverse or painful environments, such as the hospital or battlefield, intense homesickness is far more prevalent. And that's interesting, isn't it? That's it. That's my little catchphrase, isn't it? That's interesting, isn't it? Got the battle star up there. On the battlefield, because we talked about the Taliban, it's not just the people that are leaving Afghanistan in terms of the people that, how do I put this? It's not just the native people, the Afghanis, I don't know what the correct term is, so I'm not trying to be racist by saying an incorrect word there, but I don't know, they're going to feel homesick, they're leaving their home through being a refugee or whatever. But also the soldiers that have been there, they've been feeling homesick the whole time that they're there. The soldiers, like the American ones that we sent out, or the English ones that we sent out, or the whatever you want to call it, they're feeling homesick. That's interesting, isn't it? They're feeling homesick on the battlefield, and that's a mental health issue. And you're asking them to go into these environments that are definitely negative, definitely preferable to be at home. It's interesting, isn't it? In one study, 50% of children scored themselves at or above the midpoint on a numerical homesickness intensity scale compared to the 20% at summer camp. So another study said even more of them, sometimes to the point of suicidal misery. So now we're saying that homesickness can actually be that serious that it leads to, I forgot. Every single chuffing week I do this, don't I? Every week. We're on the web browser. Where's my Windows? You love this. You love this. Where am I going now with this? Homesickness. And we need to do the old Samaritans, don't we? Samaritans. If you are at crisis point, if you are feeling that homesick, that you feeling suicidal or whatever, if for whatever reason you think I'm not usually feeling like this is different, or chuff it, I'm fed up of it, there's a number to call. You can talk to somebody immediately. You can talk to us in chat. Yeah. And by the way, it does depend on how you define home. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. And there's Lifeline in America, and there's the helpers. So Lifeline is there. That's you can tell it's American because 1-800. I'm laughing. If you're feeling bad, look, they're smiling. They've called Lifeline, so that's better than topping yourself. Trust me. And there's one for deaf. That's really good as well, isn't there? Let's drag that down so you can see it. Deaf and hard of hearing there, and in Spanish, so that's good. And there was helpers something. Nigel will have to tell me again another time. Mental Health Monday, fully professional here, fully professional. And we're going. I'll tell you what you're doing. You're going back to the picture. You're going back to that picture there. What's going on? I can see everything. Then you're going back to that picture there. I'm going to homesick. Homesick. So, you can see the words down the bottom now a little bit. You can see everything all in one. Brilliant. So now we move on to something called risk and protective factors. Risk factors. So this is interesting as well. Everything's interesting to me. It's interesting because in other forms of mental health, because we're doing overviews at the moment, we're doing all the different sort of topics, giving overviews, having a little chat about them, and then we're going to look at trying to get some interviews going and maybe looking at deeper studies. That's the longer term, step by step. But at the moment we're doing overviews, but no risk factors have come up yet in overviews, have they? But yet with homesickness, they've thrown that up for us, risk factors. And that's a good concept. I didn't, with anxiety maybe as well, risk factors. Maybe there are some things that are more likely or more risky in terms of, the problem with anxiety is you think about risk all the time, don't you? You overrate the risk. That's why you feel anxious about some things. That's why you are more scared of things that maybe don't need that level of response. Learning to... This is something we did in one of the early episodes, the anxiety trap, learning to rate the risk and say, what's the probability of this happening? Has this happened to me before? Will it happen in 100 times? What's the percentage chance? If I bet a tenner on it happening, would I lose my money? Is it going to happen now? Would I want to bet the tenner? Do I feel differently about my fear, my anxiety, now that I've measured out the risk in a different way? Those sort of ideas. And also the worry tree. Can I do something about this? If so, yes. If not, distract myself, those sort of things. But we haven't looked at risk factors. Will this activity increase the risk of my panic attack? Are the factors involved that are going to make me potentially more likely to feel depressed? Risk factors. And they brought this up with homesickness, which is great because homesickness, as we said earlier, is something that maybe we all feel at some point in our lives, and is completely deeply rooted and associated with depression and anxiety. So maybe we can all get something from learning about this and all relate to somebody who's feeling anxious or depressed if we learn about this. Risk factors and protective factors, constructs that decrease the likelihood of homesickness, vary by population. So it's interesting that they've done the studies and it varies depending on which demographic you're naturally, fortunately born into, and where you live does make a difference culturally. So we're saying that if there's a difference in population, maybe it's genetic, maybe because populations have different genetic factors, but I always believe it to be more cultural. Nature-nurture debate, isn't it? But for example, seafarers on board, the environmental stresses associated with a hospital, a military boot camp or foreign country may exacerbate homesickness and complicate treatment. So if you're homesick and you're going through something really stressful, like a military boot camp or being on a boat, then that's going to complicate it. But generally speaking, risk and proactive factors transcend age and environment. So we all experience these. So again, it's something human to all of us. Great. I like it. They fall into 5 categories, the risks: experience, personality, family, attitude, and environment. More is known about some of these factors in adults, especially personality factors, because more homesickness research has been performed with older populations. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's one of those things. The more you study, the more you know. So, but it means that you can talk about it more. We end up talking about it more because we've got these things. When you create media products, they draw on things like this. The study gets done and you see 100, different websites, different headlines trying to grab a click. But the things we don't know about might equally be as powerful or important, but we just haven't studied them as much. But yeah, we've got some information, so that's cool. And if you look at the Wikipedia, which you're not allowed to because I'm doing the reading, but it does give, the Wiki Homesickness does give obviously all these different citations that you can go and look at, and we will one day look at together. Anywho, a growing body of research is elucidating the etiology. So some people who write on Wikipedia just love the words, don't they? They love the words elucidating, making clear. If you wanted to make things clear, you just write more clear language, because everyone's got to read this, not just the people that can elucidate the meaning from the difficult words into simple. Etiology. A growing body of research is elucidating the etiology. Etiology, I guess, must mean, where it comes from, of homesickness in younger populations. I'm going to have to copy, and then I'm just going to have to go into the old Google and just find out what it means, because, I can't just be ignorant all my life. Etiology, the set of causes of a manager of causation of a disease or condition. Where it come from. Where it come from. So I can edit Wikipedia, can't I? I should edit that to say a growing body of research is finding out the cause of homesickness in younger populations. Not elucidating the etiology. Elucidating the etiology. I can't even say the chuffing thing. This is a good tip. Scott's top tips. You'll love this. Top tip. If you're writing and you're doing it for a job interview or if you've got your Grammarly, forget your Grammarly. If you're trying to do your Grammarly, you've got your thing, you're writing, and you're writing for someone, don't try and impress them with etiology of elucidating, unless they are a, Choxford professor, Chuffington, unless they're writing a chuffing dictionary themselves and they're going to get a kick out of that. Don't do that, because if they don't know the words, they'll feel like made small a little bit, won't they? See, they all love my hair. They all love my hair. Hello, Nigel. Yeah, you can see that I dyed it more because it's looking more orange as the days wear on. Blue makes it look less orange. So, but trust me, it's orange. We're going for a sort of muck orange on that. I don't know why. The doggy's doing some chuffing now. Heard me talking about chuffers. But listen, I've been saying this all episode. But look, this isn't a new microphone. I only figured it out after we got off last week. This is a pop shield, and I just put it on there. It just looks better. It just looks new. But yeah, so if you're writing for somebody and they're going to get a kick out of the writing, then give it the elucidating the etiology. But if it's just for somebody that wants to understand you, and especially if you're going to be working together, you want to know, like if I was reading the resume, you say in America, don't you, the resume, the CV, curriculum vitae. If I was reading the piece of paper that they'd written me, and it was like all about elucidating that, I'd think, this is going to be a difficult chuff to work with, isn't it? And they're going to be going on with all their like pretentious highbrow, making me feel small all the time. If I don't know the words, I'm going to feel small, so I'm going to have to get the dictionary out, and I think, well, I'm not employing this person I'm the boss. I'm not employing this person who makes me feel small, even if it shows their intelligence and they'd be good at the job. Unless we're working in the dictionary corner and they need to, exactly the word clear. And that's why it's so funny as well, isn't it? Because it makes it less clear to use the word elucidating. Makes it less clear. Muddies the water for me, mate, unless you know what they're saying. So I don't know, I think it's better to use plain English. And then another context, so that's one context. Another context is if you're writing for other people to read, which is wide context, isn't it? Wide. Let's say you're writing a sign and you want to make sure people don't go in the water. Yeah, what's your top 10 words that you're going to want on that sign? I'm pretty sure that don't and water are going to fit. If you're writing elucidating, elucidate your way around the water, please. They're going to be all in the water. They're going to keep off the grass. Good sign says what it means, doesn't it? Keep off the grass, not on the grass. Stay off. Look. So they've even gone as far as just stop, not stop this and that. Just stop. That's a good one. Stop. So, boiling it down, simple concepts. It actually is a good concept. Use clear language, especially if people are going to want to read it and understand it. They'll enjoy it more. They'll get what you mean more. Easy, straight away, quick words, concept, simple. If you're going into something hard, if you're doing a documentary for BBC4 and it's going to be all about the spoken word and Chaucer, then maybe go into some clever words. But for this is Wikipedia, and I'm trying to tell you about risk factors, homesickness, and it's only making it more difficult for me. Me. Right. So look, we've done me. Let's carry on. Risk factors. We didn't get to them yet. All we found out was that we're finding out. Right, 1, experience factors, younger age. You haven't got as much experience away from home, for which age can be a proxy. That, again, clear language, please. I think what they mean there is simply by nature of being young, you haven't got as much experience as being away from home in general. But maybe you have if you're young, you still can. But little or no previous experience in a novel environment. Again, you're not more as likely to have experienced different environments, so you don't know as much about them. Little or no previous experience venturing out without primary caregivers. You don't go out on your own. People look after you. So if all of a sudden you're booted off to boot camp or summer camp, you're like, oh, hang on, who's going to cook my dinner? But these are risk factors. If you've got that, if you're younger, that's a reason you're going to feel more likely to feel homesick. So I shouldn't joke about it, but I will. I'm going to joke all the way through. I like joking. I bought Crime and Punishment because I recommend, it's heavy. These are the factors that make you more likely to have a risk of homesickness. Attitude factors. Simply the belief that homesickness will be strong. Negative first impressions and low expectations for the new environment. That's come up again, the new environment. It's always this new environment, isn't it? When you get sent off to summer camp, if they hype it up and you think band camp's going to be good, don't want to be shit or play me. Well, if it's good, then in that case, I want to take all the credit when it turns out to be good. When one of the literary classics turns out, shock horror, to actually be good, then I want all the credit. Dostoevsky, chuff him. He only did the thoughts and the writing of the thoughts. You do the thing in your mind when you read it, so most of the credit goes to you, and I want 10%. I just want a commission. Attitude factors. The belief that, look, if you think it's going to be bad and you're going to get homesick, if you think that band camp is going to be shit, I'm just going to swear then, because you swore. Don't get us swearing. Let's keep with the chuffing. If you think it's going to be bad, if you think it's going to be far away from home as well, far away, great perceived distance. So there's a factor, perceived distance. Another risk factor, which I've got to edit out of all my chuffing chat. Personality factors. Insecure attachment relationship with primary caregivers. Low perceived control over the timing and nature of the separation from, one by one in plain English, please. If you're overly attached to your parents, primary caregivers, we'll say parents because that's the majority. It's only fair, isn't it? Even if primary caregivers, could be a low perceived control over the timing and nature of the separation from home. So if you feel you're not going to control how long you're going to be away and what kind of the nature of the separation, or what, I guess, the activity, what's going to be happening, the reasons, if you're not in control of that. Anxious or depressed feelings in the months prior to the separation. So that's before. So if you're getting anxious and depressed before, and low self-directedness, high harm avoidance, rigidity, and a wishful thinking coping style. So there's quite a few bundled in there, but they're personality factors, they're calling them, and they're different. So, if you're already a vulnerable personality, it feels like a cake moment for me now. I can see that cake just warming up in its plastic bag. We have a good cake this week. We made a good one. Should we do family factors? That's the last one before I have to edit out my cake chat. Family factors, decision control, e.g. caregivers forcing young children to spend time away from home against their wishes. So if your family is the reason that you're having to spend time away from home, that's going to be tough, isn't it? But that's natural in a way as well. You've got to go to scout camp. I just need a fucking chuffing weekend on my own. This is good, isn't it? Because you've got positive things that mean you might feel less homesick. So we can actually work on these before the separation, before the thing that makes you homesick, before you have to go somewhere. We can actually work on these things to toughen ourselves up, to make ourselves more proactive. Unfortunately, they're all the same things. So in the edit, I can just flip the screen and I'll be saying the same things but backwards. I'll read them. Experience factors, older age. So being older and having more experience away from home can give you a greater resilience to being homesick, previous experience in the new environment, having been to different environments before, all that sort of thing, and being out without your parents, that can help. Isn't that interesting? That the things that's blown my mind a little bit. The experience factors that held you back before, that made you feel more homesick, not having the experience, not being out there, not having seen it, not being out without your mum and dad, now they are the things that make you more strong. So actually going through it in itself made you strong, didn't it? That's interesting. Attitude factors, the belief that homesickness will be mild, or that you've got a positive first impression of where you're going, high expectations for your new environment, perceptions of social support, low perceived demands, e.g. on academic or vocational performance, short perceived distance from home. I'm not too far, I can always go home. Do I want to become famous? They always chuffing following me. You must think something's you must think there's something up with me, because you're always chuffing them and you're chuffers. Right. But this is interesting. It's basically the way you think about it before you go. And it's hard to... You can. It's hard to just say, I'm switching these feelings, I'm going to think better about this. But attempting to work ideas through that might help us to think more positively about the new environment actually leads to feeling better when we get there. So that's really important to note. Personality factors, flexibility, an instrumental coping style, good mental health in the months prior to the separation, high perceived control over the timing and nature. Now that's a good one. High perceived control. So giving people a sense that they have control or a choice makes them feel less homesick. High perceived control. And it's perceived control. Maybe you can't change these things. Maybe you can't go home whenever you want. But maybe if you tell them they can. Maybe if you tell them they can, they feel better. Family factors, high decision control. So caregivers giving young people a say in the decision to spend time away from home. Individuals making their own choice about military service. Supportive caregiving. Excuse me, that's the cake. Caregivers who express confidence and optimism about the separation. Have a great time away. I know you'll do great. So if you yourself, as the people who are building the person up to be away, is worried and frightened, that means when they get there, they're going to have a worse time. So you've got to be optimistic and positive. It's going to be great. Environmental factors, low cultural contrast. This is a good one. You're not going to feel as homesick if there is a low cultural contrast. So again, with the big words, what they mean is if people speak the same language, or you've got similar food that you like, or they also play soccer or football, whatever it is, if it's something that you can key into that is something familiar, then even though it's a new environment, you're going to feel better about being homesick. Physical and emotional safety. So feeling safe is important. I get that. A few changes to familiar daily schedule. So if you're doing the same sort of things in a different environment, but you've got the same schedule, that's going to help. Plenty of information about the new place prior to relocation. So yeah, lots of information, being ready, being positive, feeling welcome and accepted in the new place. That's harder to achieve on your own, but it can definitely help, sure. Theories of coping. Coping. What? Many psychologists argue that research into the causes of homesickness is valuable for three reasons. First, homesickness is experienced by millions of people who spend time away from home. Second, severe homesickness is associated with significant distress and impairment. And it actually has some... Homesick boys and girls complain about somatic problems and exhibit more internalising and externalising behaviour problems than their non-homesick peers. First-year college students are 3 times more likely to drop out of school than their non-homesick peers. So they're saying that being homesick can give severe knock-on effects in your life. I get that. And third, learning about how people cope with homesickness is a helpful guide to designing a treatment programme. So what they're basically saying is that loads of people suffer from homesickness. It can actually make a significant damage to your life. And by studying it, we can help people to deal with it. So that's why we want to learn how to cope with it. Makes sense. They then go on to talk about learned helplessness. And they've got the actual studies that learned helplessness and control beliefs. Learned helplessness predicts that persons... I can't do all their words. Learned helplessness... Learned helplessness is basically that if you don't do things for yourself in your life, or you feel that you can't do things for yourself in your life, let's say, for example, instead of driving yourself to places, somebody else always drives you, and you're worried about learning to drive the car because it's dangerous and, you know, big scary vehicles. So you say, oh, I can't drive that, I'm not going to, you know, you learn that you're kind of helpless and you have to be driven around places. Just something like that. This sort of behaviour in your childhood, learned helplessness, learning that it's not up to you when and where you drive, other people have to do it, or I can't do the cooking, it just gets delivered to me, so I'm helpless, I can't choose what's for dinner, I just have to have what I get fed. The knock-on effects to these sort of concepts from childhood is that, let's say you're in a job you don't enjoy, or you live in a place you're not happy with, and you just say to yourself, well, that's life, I can't do anything about it. I've learned that certain things in life you can't do anything about, so I'm not going to do anything about it. And it turns out there are things in life you can do things about, but it's a matter of perception. It's a matter of it's so strange to say it, but some people actually feel that they can't fix certain issues, and other people seem to be able to fly ahead and just do that. This is the concept of learned helplessness anyway, so that you learn that you're helpless, or you infer that you're helpless at a young age, so at a later age you don't push for promotion, you don't send off those application forms for the next job, for the better job, you don't move to the other place and follow your dreams, because you've learned that you can't. You've decided through internalizing this concept of learned helplessness that you can't do much about it. Web browser, so that's what they say, but they say it in big words. And there's some really good articles about it actually that are really good, and about stress, and some really good people have done the research, so it is worth looking into, and we'll do deeper dives in the future. But ways of coping, this is what we're going to push towards. So we know that we need to form a coping strategy, and we know that learned helplessness is one aspect of this homesickness, that people believe they can't change things, so they get into these situations where they feel homesick or depressed, and that's how you just feel when you're at uni, or that's how you just feel when you're at camp. So I can't do anything about it, I can't get myself home any quicker, I just have to sit it out. But actually there are things you can do about it to make yourself feel better, ways of coping. And these aren't just off the top of my head, these are from the factual source of all knowledge, Wikipedia, but they've got a study from Thurber and Weiss. You can try, you can just give up. The impact of perceived control and coping style on childhood homesickness. So it's literally a study on this. And these are their stratagems. See them using the big words? These are their ideas. Line of cakes. Maybe I should do a line of cakes though, I wonder if you can give cake away on Patreon, because you'd be blown away. The most effective ways of coping with homesickness is mixed and layered. Mixed coping is that which involves both primary goals, the words again, primary goals, what you're trying to do, your main thing that you want to do, changing circumstances, and secondary goals, adjusting to circumstances. So I get that. That's quite interesting though, that mixed coping, you might want to think, I don't want to be homesick, so I want to go home. That's your primary goal. That might be achievable, but it might not. And that's the context that we're talking about today. Afghanistan, the Death Star being blown up. You can't go home sometimes. I could tell you all my home stories from when I was a kid about how I felt about homes, and how through divorce they were sold and I had to move out, and I didn't feel the same. Homesick for things that you can't ever go back to. Homesick for concepts that you can't ever return to. Yeah, homesick. And the secondary goal is coping with that homesickness. So layering coping is that which involves more than one method, which I think is all of coping, isn't it? You can't just say, today I'm just using this method and the other methods not. They're all happening at the same time. This kind of sophisticated coping is learned through experience. I guess sophisticated is a good word there, because naive children might not be able to use more cognitive coping strategies. I'm using big words now, you see, myself, but what we're saying is that if you're not that, if you're not that grown up, you're not that sophisticated, it's a long word for being able to hold these big ideas and concepts in your head and big thinking. Maybe you just need something simple, and sophisticated coping is learned through experience. So maybe you haven't got the experience to teach you these big concept ideas that maybe you don't need to worry about so much at the moment. such as brief periods away from home or parents. An example of mixed and layered coping, one study revealed the following method-goal combinations. God, dude, could you imagine just having to go to lunch with this chuffer? I bet they've written who they are as well on the... I bet it says, doesn't it? It should do, shouldn't it, on Wikipedia, say who wrote this. Wikipedia. Edited on 25th of May. No, it doesn't say who edited it. I'm sorry if this is you. I'm sorry if I'm critiquing your edit and you feel bad about it on Mental Health Monday. I'm sorry. But could you imagine going for dinner? So where would you like to go? I'd like to go to an establishment, a purveyor of fine goods, and where service is equal to, if not greater than, 4 celestial bodies on the TripAdvisor. I can't keep doing it, like, on the TripAdvisor. So where would you like to go to dinner? And, like, you know, you get there and they'd be like, would you like a menu? I can't even. Would you like? Could you imagine this chuffer? Would you like a menu? Can I interest you with a list of the delectable delights on offer? You know, could I just have the menu? Just look, anonymous subbies. Wee. That's like me going down a slide. Wee. That one. We've had anonymous subbing before where it was like little mice tooting horns. That was me going down a slide. Wee. Let's go back to the ways of coping, because I'm coping with these ways of coping. Well, I'll make it understandable. So the following method goal combinations, the things you're trying to do, are the most frequent and effective ways for boys and girls. They're most useful, and you do them most. So doing something fun, that's better. Oh, look, there's words I can understand. Doing something fun, observable method. To forget about being homesick, secondary goal. So basically, you have some fun, you cheer yourself up, and it ain't as bad. Now that sounds silly, doesn't it? Oh, look, we got another one. Didn't prepare an emotional response. Just other than the cheer and delight. Going to be getting on the internet more this week. I really am trying hard to do that. I'm not going to chug the edit. I'm just going to get on this week and see what happens. So you might see me in the week. Doing something fun is a way of, like, if you're out there, I want to talk to you now. If you're feeling homesick and you're out there, this might get chopped onto the front of the edit, you never know. I want to talk to you if you're out there and you're homesick. There are ways of getting through it. We're going to look at them today, and one of them, it turns out, is doing something fun. So this episode will be fun. I'm already having it. But yeah, like, it seems silly, doesn't it? But I remember times where I've been homesick, where I've been away at these places, where just the concept of being there has made me feel sad, and I don't really feel myself. I don't really feel like I want to do stuff. But maybe they've had a little board game. You know, maybe they've had a little board game in the box there that looks a bit. Can we? Maybe there's a video that you haven't watched before around your friend's house. Maybe the alien environment has some opportunity. Doing something fun. Forget about being homesick. That's a good one. Because also, we talked earlier about how one of the big problems is your perception of this new environment. Not whether the new environment actually is better or worse, but your perception of it. And it can be objectively worse, and you can perceive it to be better, to be more fun in ways. That's a possibility. It can be objectively worse, and you can perceive it to be worse. So what we're going to try and do is find ways to make it more fun, and then that's going to change the way you think about the new environment. So that's important. Thinking positively and feel grateful to feel better. So it's a silly but simple concept, is to feel grateful. Listing things you feel happy about and that you're grateful for. I remember being in places where I remember being on a camp once where the water was brown, and there were things that I wasn't. Oh God, I tell you what. This is a great story with the Polish big face. This is before I was vegan as well, before veganism. Polish camp for fencing, there for 6 weeks. The first week we were given these sausages for breakfast. It was like salad and sausages, and I don't have salad and sausages for breakfast, and I certainly don't have these sausages. We referred to them as killer sausages because they just looked so, and what they chewed so, and they was like, we were given one of these sausages each as standard, and with a bit of salad. Nobody had this. We didn't want to eat those. I didn't like them. And I remember as well, they had iced tea, not hot tea in a cup with milk like we drink in the UK, like I'm used to, but cold tea. Cold tea in a jug with lemon. And again, this was passed around as an opportunity at breakfast. I tried a little glass. I was like, I don't like this. So that first breakfast, I didn't really eat my sausage. Had a bit of my salad. Wasn't that into my salad either. Wasn't really that, that wasn't for me. And didn't really drink my cold tea. And then I remember the last week, after 6 weeks, because at this point, you've eaten all your sandwiches that you've took with you. You've run out of sweetie sweets. You're down to the bare bones. It's the last week. You're on your upper. The last week, I was hungry for breakfast. We've been training for 6 weeks. They served us killer sausages. I remember it, and I thought, this is those killer sausages again. I'll have two. I had two of them. I'd chuff them down. Give me the salad. I'll eat the salad. Ate it all. Hungry this time, wasn't I? I was hungry. Not fussy this time, but hungry. And I was more grateful for it. The iced tea, that didn't just get drunk. That got poured into bottles, old plastic bottles, and saved for later. That was now a valuable commodity. The iced tea that I didn't like before, that I was now pouring into bottles to save for later. So my perception about the environmental factors had changed. My perception of gratitude had changed dramatically, simply through being more hungry, I guess. I've been like that recently over COVID. I've said about not having chocolate. I guess the reason I'm enjoying this cake so much, this chocolatey cake, is because I don't have easy ready. Well, now we've got different rules. Now I can go into any shops I want. It's just up to me now. But I haven't had easy ready access to all those things. So yeah, at first you might not realise this. So if you're homesick and you're watching this, and at first you're not going to realise this, that those horrible things that you think are horrible, you're one day going to love, and that's going to be your best thing. How horrible life will be. That the worst things will be your best thing. But no, it's not that bad. Actually, it turns out you find a new appreciation for things. You realise the delicate nuance of why iced tea might be better than just ditch water. You realise that there are pleasant qualities to it, that although it's not the hot tea with milk in that you're used to, a bit of lemon, a bit of zest, you can get used to that. They had to in Poland, right? But that's good, isn't it? That's good. So changing the way we feel, thinking positively and feeling grateful helps you to feel better. And especially if you're feeling homesick, feeling grateful for where you are and what you have, even though you feel homesick. Interesting concept. Simply changing feelings and attitudes to be happy. No, I'm gonna skip that one. Simply change your feelings. Ever felt depressed? Well, don't. Job done. Thanks, Mental Health Monday. Just edit that into a podcast week on week. Do you feel bad? Simply change your feelings. It's not that easy, is it? It's not that easy. Your feelings are born of... Oh, no. See, my feelings now are born of events. This just happened. You see what that is? That's a tiny nut and bolt that the dog could eat, so you've got to make sure that goes back in there. And it's come out of this clapperboard, and I broke my clapperboard by clapping it. That's going to get a bad review on Amazon. Right, so... But things happen, and they make you feel things. That happened, it made me feel bad, didn't it? So I can't just control my feelings. Don't be stupid. That's you rubbish. No, what we're learning in Mental Health Monday is that you actually can. Your feelings and your thoughts and feelings and your actions and your thoughts and your actions and your feelings, they're all in a triangle, and what we do changes them. So we're in control of the way we act. We're in control of the way we feel, in a way. We can allow ourselves to feel it and to revel and roll and wallow in the feelings, or we can say to ourselves, hang on, I'm going to have to distract myself now and think about something differently. We're in charge of our thinking, at least. That thing fell out. I wasn't in charge of my thinking then. It was happening. But after it's happened, I've screwed it in the wrong way now. I've noticed it's back to front. Chuffer. After it happened, I had a moment to grab hold of my thoughts and say, what do I want to think about now? Do I want to think about fixing it, or do I want to think about worrying about it? Getting control, taking those moments of mindfulness. Hang on, the sky's blue. It's a medium room temperature. My background's blue. I'm blue. Hang on, come back to what we're doing. It's mindfulness. Grabbing hold of your thinking. You can't change your feelings, can you? But you can. You can. You must. You must find ways to at least stick a spanner in that system, in that ever decreasing circle of spiral of. Stick a spanner in it. We're going to start acting different. We're going to start changing the way I think. I'm going to start doing that, and it's going to change the way I feel. Yeah, you can. You can. Simply changing your feelings. Yeah, you can't. Oh no, but you can. That's what we were saying. Yeah. Reframing time in order to perceive the time away as shorter. That's a really good one as well. I like that. Reframing time. No, that doesn't make sense, does it? You can't. Well, you're there. So you're there. It's as long as it lasts, isn't it? But if I'm there for 6 weeks, and oh God, I've got to be here for the whole 6 weeks. It's just it's almost, it's longer than a month. It's a month and a. You know what I mean? It seems big, but when we were there on this 6 weeks fencing camp, excuse me, and when I was there, I didn't think of it like that. I felt in terms of Saturdays, or you get through how many days left till we go home. You don't even think about that too much at the start, because you're not thinking that way at the start. But when you do, how many days till we go home is maybe it seems big or small, I don't know. But recontextualizing the time, changing how you think about it in order to perceive it as shorter. So another way of saying it is, it's 6 weeks out of a year. Isn't that much, is it? It's not that much of a year. But if it's your whole summer holidays, it's all of your time, isn't it? So different ways of thinking about time. Yeah. That's quite important, and something that you can only find out if someone's feeling homesick, or if you're feeling homesick. Talking about how you feel to somebody can elucidate this piece of information, can't it? It can illuminate this piece. It can bring out this piece of information, how you're feeling about. How long are you away for? How long have you got till you do go home? How long have you felt like this? And the way you answer that, the way you refer to time, then you should stop and think about it and say, can I think about this period of time differently? Is it worth doing? Yeah. And it will be worth doing, because it's going to help you feel less homesick. Renewing a connection with home through letter writing, observable method, to feel closer to home. So they've suggested you write letters home, and that makes you feel closer to home because you're thinking about it, which is good, but in contrast to one of the others, which is to distract yourself and do something fun. I think they're both important in different ways. I think that it is important to give yourself maybe half an hour's homesick time, half an hour's thinking time. I talked about it with grief and loss and things, to give yourself that worry time. Yeah. So when you finish writing the letter, it's then time to do something fun. It's important to put that at the end of it, because if you just renew the connection with home and just constantly think about it, maybe you're thinking about homesickness more, maybe it's making it worse. So be careful with that one, although I agree that, writing your feelings. And also what's good, when you're away on holiday, you write a little postcard, don't you? We do have this tradition in England. We have this tradition, wherever you go on your holidays, you get a little bit of card, right? I know you know what a postcard is, but I'm telling you anyway. You get a little bit of card, right? A little big face, a little bit of card. It's about the size of that. And on the one side is a picture, often funny. Sometimes it's several pictures of the place you are. And on the back is just space to write on one side and space to put your address. So you know that whoever this message can be seen by everyone through the postal service. Everyone. Wish you were here. I always wondered about wish you were here when I was a kid. I always wondered whether it meant you, like when I received. Okay, so I've just received a postcard. It's a giant postcard, and it looks like a clapperboard that says Scotty Hotties, but it's a postcard, trust me. And it says, "Wish you were here." Now, does that mean you wish I was out there with you? That's nice. Or does it mean, I bet you wish you were here, but you're not? You're at home, which actually is better in homesickness terms. But no, does it mean that humble bragging? You wish you were here, don't you? But you're not. Or does it mean I wish you were here? I wish you were here with me to enjoy this together. I wonder if that's what it means. Yeah, I wonder. I always thought that I always felt the negative in it. Wish you were here. Bet you wish you were here. Yeah, well, you're not. Yeah, so, but I always thought we always did something to our nan and granddad, to our grandparents from Holly Bob's. But I always wondered, everyone can read the thing, can't they? So it's not really about the message. You don't write anything you don't write hidden the money under the mattress and the key to the safe is in the dog. You don't write that. You don't write, your deepest innermost anguish on a postcard. You just write, oh, we went to the seaside. I saw a crab. We have been eating at a local restaurant, which we're going to come on to in a minute and see about food. Which we promised at the start of the episode. You're not here, I am, because I'm important. Yeah, you write that on your postcard and you just send it. It's just a feeling, isn't it? It's just a sentiment. I'm thinking of you. And now it's Facebook and Instagram. It's not important if it's Facebook. If someone sends me a tweet from their holiday, it's not as important as if it comes through the letterbox and I can put it on the wall and it's the pictures and it's a souvenir and a memory. We had that concept. It was quite big. But that's a good way of writing home. That's not spending hours thinking about all the negative things that are making you feel homesick and all the positive things about home that you miss. It's not that. It's saying to the people at home, here are some nice things about what we're doing here. And I'm going to be back soon. So postcards also say that, don't they? In my experience, they tend to get to the person you're sending them to at about the same time as you get home anyway. You're only on holiday for a week and a half. The post doesn't go that. It's not like super duper airmail from, usually we would go somewhere like Spain and, it's not a vast distance from England, but, the postcard would arrive 2 weeks after we would. So anyway, it's not really about this communication, is it? It's about a sort of, I'll be back home real soon. These postcards just to say, thinking of you while I'm not there. Yeah, so maybe a postcard, that sort of way of writing home is more mentally healthy because it's not about worry and anxiety. It's about the little highlights. Maybe writing postcards is a good one. And finally, another way of coping, and these are ways of coping with homesickness. So perfectly edit into a perfect little video, these will. Talking with someone who could provide support and help them to make new friends. That's a good one. So that's all bundled in together there. Talking to someone, important. We do it here, but feeling homesick. How are you? Shut up and go back to bed. Oh, I'm glad we had that chat. No, talking to someone, maybe they're feeling it too. Maybe you can talk about some of these ideas that we brought up and how you can implement them. Talking to someone's a good start point for anything when it comes to mental health. And they might provide support and help you to make new friends in a new situation. Any friends are going to be new, I assume, unless you're there with people that you already know, I guess. But it's one of the joyful things that you can partake in, making new friends, and it can lead you out of this homesickness feeling, can't it? I've always felt myself when I've been in Poland, I've spoken to the Polish people. So God damn it, if I see someone Polish in our country, I'm going to speak to them here and make them feel welcome. Like they made me feel welcome when I was there. And I've always felt, because I live in Stratford, it's a multicultural town with people from all over the world come to see Shakespeare plays and visit Shakespeare houses, and there's a lot of American tourists, there's a lot of Chinese tourists, and they're both ends of the spectrum there, aren't they? America and China. So I've always met a lot of different people, knowing that full well they're not going to be here next week, so I just better damn well be polite to them now, because this is my first and only impression they're going to get from me. So it better well be, positive and polite. Yes, I'll help you get here. Yes, I can read your map with you. Absolutely. Yeah, because of the tourist town, I've felt that global citizenship, but helping people to make friends, it did. I remember being in Poland actually and feeling homesick and making new friends, and it turned out they were doing similar. We went to a university campus and we hung out in this, like, what's so good about making friends when you are homesick is that you get to see the real life and the genuine, authentic life. So all of a sudden I wasn't just like away in a little room on my own, even though I couldn't really understand what everyone was saying. I got the vibe. Drinking, partying, people hanging out in this room, in that room. I got the vibe, so I could hang out, and I felt that vibe made me feel less homesick. And making new friends, talking to them, they weren't, as I say, they were very positive and welcoming. So we were finding things that we felt in common that reminded me of home. That they, lots of positive in that. Yeah, I think that's a really good one at the end there. Making new friends, providing support as the primary goal. And what's interesting about that final one is that it's not about trying to recontextualize the environment. It's not about trying to find your way home quicker or bargain your way out of the feelings of how long this is going to go on for. It's about something different entirely that isn't about home or where you are. It's about people. And I've talked about this Valhalla before, that we all meet in Valhalla, don't we? We've all met in Valhalla before. And that's why we have this connection, and you don't know it. You can't name it. You don't know which wars we've fought side by side in, and how many times we've reached out hands to each other, and how many times we've fallen, but and how many we will again. You don't know that, but we all meet in Valhalla, don't we? So it gives you that feeling. You're making new friends. You're not trying to fix the homesickness by fixing the environment or anything like that. You're finding something different that can make you feel happy. So that's a good one to finish on. I like that. I don't know and a half. That's not bad, is it? Not bad at all. On the old homesickness. Got the nice picture up the whole time. Home sweet home there. That's your chat window. I'm going to change your Bubba browser to this one. There we go. Change that back to Mental Health Monday. There you go. Wee. Mental Health Monday. Oh, what a chuffing. What a chuffer. I can eat my cake again now.